children of the internet, my name is Alex and welcome back to the channel. First of all, I'm sorry I haven't been uploading recently. I'm still trying to figure out what the heck I want to make, like music or short films or commentary or whatever this is going to be. So please bear with me while I try and figure out the content that I kind of actually want to make and actually have a drive for. Also, this video is going to be a little bit different as this is actually an assignment that I had to complete for this thing my school does called Leadership Block, where we basically take a topic that's important to leadership and then expand upon that for the last 3 weeks of school. It's pretty cool, and I actually am having a lot of fun with it because I get to make stuff like this. Anyway, this year's Leadership Block topic was compassion and humanitarianism, and I was tasked with making something that related to those topics to turn in for my leadership project. And at first I was going to make a musical, because song and dance and acting, those are all things I really like. But then I realized it was going to take way too long to film it and compose it and write the script, so then I was like, oh, well, I'll just throw everything else and write a story. But then I didn't have any more inspiration, and I was about to give up before I remembered a couple things. 1, I'm really good at talking to myself. 2, I'm really good at overanalyzing every single little detail in a game or a movie or a book. 3, I really love Detroit Become Human. And 4, I have a YouTube channel, and having all these wondrous facts in my mind, they melded together into one brilliant idea. I'm gonna make a YouTube video. So, for those of you who don't know what Detroit Become Human, or DBH, or Detroit Become Human is, let me give you a quick rundown. Detroit Become Human is a game, an immersive experience developed by game studio Quantic Dream, released in May of last year. The story is very dynamic and actually changes drastically depending on how you play the game, but here's a synopsis of the general plot from Wikipedia. The game follows 3 main characters, Connor, Marcus, and Kara. Connor is a police investigator android tasked with hunting down androids that have deviated from their program behaviors. Kara is a housekeeper android who develops artificial consciousness and becomes responsible for a young girl's safety. Marcus is a caretaker android who, after gaining consciousness, takes it upon himself to free others like him from bondage. Unfortunately, that's about as specific as I can be because, like I said earlier, the player's choices drastically impact the plot of the game. Fortunately though, for the confused, we're only going to be focusing on one character and one ending. Connor, and the pacifist ending. I hope that kind of makes sense. Leave a comment if you're confused and I'll try and help you out as best I can. With that being said, the main focus of this video is to follow Connor's journey and character development and highlight how showing empathy, having compassion, and having the moral high ground in situations is beneficial to ourselves, our communities, and even to the world. Big, humongous thank you to Boss Zombie on YouTube for uploading Connor's entire storyline. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you can check him and the game out if you would like. Connor's entire story clocks in at about 3 hours of gameplay, but obviously, in the famous words of John Mulaney,
well, we don't have time to unpack all of that.
So I'll only be focusing on the major aspects of his story where his choices really do show how compassionate and how caring he is. Now, without further ado, I'd like to present to you Connor, Android Humanitarian. Enjoy. Both the game and Connor's storyline begin in a chapter titled The Hostage, which is just such a cheery way to open up a story. Connor is tasked with saving a little girl, Emma, from a deviant android, Daniel, holding her hostage on the rooftop. But even in a dark situation like this, Connor still finds time for 2 acts of compassion, saving a fish and the life of a police officer. And I know, saving one fish sounds really stupid in comparison to saving a literal human life, but it's actually one of the most important events in the game, not because of the literal value, but because of the metaphorical one. Androids are always supposed to follow the instructions given by their human owners or supervisors and are under no circumstances meant to disobey, deviate from, or otherwise neglect them. This includes doing anything that could be perceived as free will. Saving the fish was not an integral part of Connor's mission, neither was saving the police officer, and because of that, it can be argued that Connor exhibited what the game refers to as a software instability by taking conscious action. Ironically, as I said earlier in the video, Connor was created and programmed to hunt those who strayed from their original programming, and yet, within the first 15 minutes of the game, Connor has literally already begun to diverge from what he was designed to do. Quick side note, the game calls the androids who refuse to conform to their programming deviants, and that's how I'll be referring to them for the rest of the video. To recap, Connor successfully handles a hostage situation as well as saves 2 additional lives this chapter. Sure, that's an extreme example of compassion, but it's compassionate nonetheless. We also see the humble beginning of what is, in my personal opinion, one of the coolest examples of character development in a narrative work ever. Connor's path to becoming human. Also, please keep this police officer in mind, as he has a direct correlation to how Connor helps improve the world for his people in a later chapter. Another one of Connor's beginning moments of compassion occurs in the chapter Waiting for Hank. In the chapter preceding this one, titled The Interrogation, Connor and Hank catch and, well, interrogate an android. If Connor is successful and extracts a confession and the android isn't harmed, the android will be placed in a holding cell and the player can have Connor interact with him in this chapter. If the player interacts with the deviant, they will see a dialogue option literally titled Compassionate. If they choose that option, the player will once again be greeted with what will become a somewhat comforting symbol, the software instability notification. Connor says the following to the android.
I'm sorry. It's not what I wanted. But there's nothing I can do.
While these words may as well just be what he was programmed to say, I don't necessarily think that that's the case here. As you can tell from Connor's facial expression and tone of voice, Connor seems genuinely torn up about this. He actually doesn't want this android to be destroyed. He has the opportunity to show kindness and concern for an android who's committed murder, mind you, and he takes it, showing that Connor is slowly but surely moving away from the stoic machine he was designed to be. I think Connor sets a good example here by doing one of the hardest acts of compassion, being kind to those you would be prone to dislike and or those who are working against you. I'll admit, I can be petty and vindictive and spiteful when I'm feeling wronged or I have to work with someone I despise, but Connor reminds me that showing kindness to others is always the best option in situations like that. This small act of kindness towards one of his enemies influences Connor's internal programming and allows him to make progress toward becoming a living being, instead of a piece of plastic, as Gavin Reed refers to him as. As you play the game, you develop a relationship with Hank Anderson, a rugged yet talented police lieutenant who lost his son to an android-related incident. Throughout this particular playthrough, Hank and Connor develop a sort of father-son relationship, and one of the most important events that contributes to their bond happens to be one of Connor's most compassionate. In the chapter The Nest, after taking a short lunch break, Hank and Connor investigate a suspected deviant's hideout and eventually find him. This spurs one of the greatest chase scenes in a video game that I honestly have ever seen. Connor chases the deviant in hot pursuit, jumping on trucks and trains, sliding down slanted windows, desperately careening through cornfields, and just as Connor is about to catch the deviant, Hank is nearly pushed off the roof by the suspect, and he grips tightly to the edge of the rooftop in fear. The player is faced with a choice, to either save Hank or to accomplish Connor's mission. Choosing to save Hank from falling is a huge deal, resulting in a major positive impact on both his software instability and his relationship with Hank. Our protagonist literally sacrificed his own mission, the one thing he was programmed to do, his only reason for existing, in order to save a human life. Once again, this is an extreme example of compassion, but it's incredibly important this time. Saving the fish and police officer in the first chapter kickstarted his character arc, sure, but this event shows that Connor now realizes that all life is valuable, and is an act of irrefutable humanitarianism. In the next chapter, titled Public Enemy, Hank and Connor are off to investigate yet another android-induced crime scene, but as the pair is walking in, Connor is stopped by someone. The police officer he saves on the roof, Officer M. Wilson. Wilson thanks Connor for saving him on the rooftop that day, which positively affects public opinion, aiding in the android revolution that occurs later in the game, as well as making Connor feel good about an action he took. Officer Wilson thanking Connor is pivotal because it shows that some humans are starting to see androids as equals rather than slaves. He says the following.
I could have died on that terrace. But you saved my life. I never thought I'd say this to an android. Thank you.
Also, Connor's face here is the cutest, like the little smile he gives him and the way he nods just a little bit and the way his eyebrows raise in sympathy. I literally love him so much. Following that super wholesome moment, a less wholesome situation transpires. As per usual in Detroit Become Human, Connor is tasked with interrogating some androids located in the break room / kitchen in Stratford Tower, and long story short, Connor finds a deviant who tries to make a break for it. Our android friend is once again forced to chase a deviant and is faced with more options. This time though, they're more difficult. Connor can choose to save just Hank, grab a gun from a nearby officer, or do nothing, as the deviant is now armed. If the player chooses to save just Hank, Connor will jump in front of his friend, acting as sort of a human shield, or android shield, negatively impacting public opinion as the humans are harmed, but positively impacting his relationship with Hank. Although, Connor will die, and I love my android boy too much to ever see that happen to him, so let's go back and analyze a situation where he isn't harmed. On a happier note, if the player chooses to grab the gun, Connor will shoot the deviant, saving the lives of everyone in the room, although he will be disappointed that he wasn't able to keep the android alive. This positively influences public opinion and his relationship with Hank. Lots of life and death situations in this game, but it also proves my earlier point that Connor is beginning to understand the value of being alive, aka acts of humanitarianism. Another example of a life and death situation manifests in the chapter Meet Kamsky. In an attempt to further understand the deviant's condition, our favorite duo heads to Elijah Kamsky's house, the founder and ex-CEO of major android manufacturer CyberLife. After waiting for a little bit in Kamsky's living room, den, waiting room, shrine to himself because he's got this huge self-portrait on one of his walls, I don't know, he will invite Hank and Connor into like his weird room with like a swimming pool and like a dresser and some plants. I don't really know what it is. He's crazy rich, so like nothing he does really makes any sense. Anyway, there will be some dialogue, blah blah blah. It doesn't really make any sense because Kamsky is cryptic and his ego is bigger than Lake Michigan, but then Elijah will ask a jarring question.
What about you, Connor? Whose side are you on?
In this playthrough, Connor responds with,
It's not about me, Mr. Kamsky. All I want is to solve this case.
What do you really want?
What I want is not important.
But Kamsky just likes to make things insane. He poses this weird psychological test.
But now it's time for the robot test! I've devised a question no robot could ever answer. Which of these pictures does not have a stop sign in it? What?
I'm just kidding.
What interests me is whether machines are capable of empathy. I call it the Kamsky test. It's very simple, you'll see. Magnificent, isn't it? One of the first intelligent models developed by CyberLife. Piece of plastic imitating a human. Or a living being with a soul. It's up to you to answer that fascinating question, Connor. Destroy this machine, and I'll tell you all I know. Or spare it, if you feel it's alive. But you'll leave here without having learned anything from me. Okay.
Then, once again, the player has to make a decision. To shoot or not to shoot. If Connor decides not to shoot, it drastically increases his software instability and his relationship with Hank. The two exchange the following conversation outside of Kamsky's weird house office thing.
Why didn't you shoot?
I just saw that girl's eyes, and I couldn't. That's all.
You were always saying you would do anything to accomplish your mission. That was our chance to learn something, and you let it go.
Yeah, I know what I should have done. I told you I couldn't. I'm sorry, okay?
Well, maybe you did the right thing.
As we reach the end of the video and our grand finale, I just wanted to share a quick compilation of some of my favorite Connor and Hank moments. Enjoy!
I'm registering the evidence in my possession. But don't worry, I'm going to leave. Though I'm certainly going to miss our bromance. But adapting to human unpredictability is one of my features. 28 stab wounds. I like dogs.
You showed empathy, Connor. Empathy's a human emotion. Look, you don't have to follow me around like a poodle. Oh, hey!
Wake up, Lieutenant. It's me, Connor.
Why do they make you look so goofy and give you that weird voice?
Easy, Sumo. I'm your friend. See? I know your name. I'm here to save your owner. I know it hasn't always been easy, but I want you to know I really appreciated working with you. And that's not just my social relations program talking. I really mean that. At least, I think I do.
Finally, we reach our finale, which takes place in the chapter Crossroads. I should note that this isn't where the game ends, just Connor's solo storyline. This video was made to highlight Connor's compassion and humanitarian decisions alone, not Marcus's or Kara's, and from here on out, the three main storylines become intertwined, and it would get very convoluted very quickly if I tried to explain the intricacies of everything, so I'm just going to end the video after the explanation of this chapter and a summary of the good ending. Connor finds out where Jericho is from the evidence he and Hank have collected over the course of the game, and is tasked with going there to stop the leader of the Deviants once and for all. Jericho is basically a Deviant safe haven led by Marcus. He makes his way to what's basically Marcus's office, and after some agonizing build-up, Connor and Marcus share the following exchange.
But I won't hesitate to shoot if you give me no choice.
What are you doing? You're one of us. You can't betray your own people.
You're coming with me.
We are your people. We're fighting for your freedom, too. You don't have to be their slave anymore. You're nothing to them. You're just a tool they use to do their dirty work. But you're more than that. We're all more than that.
That's enough!
You never have any doubts. You've never done something irrational, as if there's something inside you, something more than your program. You really don't have to do this. You don't have to obey them anymore. You are alive. You can decide who you want to be. You can be free. It's time to decide.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for, the moment that all those little and big acts of compassion and humanitarianism and kindness and love even come into play. If the player selects the option to become deviant, Connor will break through his barriers and programming and become a real, living android. He's free now. The rest of the good ending basically plays out like this. The FBI and the US Army come and try and neutralize the Deviants in Jericho, but they blow the place up. Connor releases captive androids in Cyberlife Tower, and there's a cool fight between Deviant Connor and like another non-Deviant Connor, which just reminds me of like that one Spider-Man meme where like they're pointing at each other. Marcus leads a peaceful protest, Kara, Alice, and Luther make it to Canada, and that's pretty much it. Happily ever after, the end. I mean, obviously this is a crude retelling of how the good ending plays out, so I highly recommend that you watch a playthrough of it or play it yourself, because the like whole game as an experience is just so rewarding if you do the good ending. So I highly encourage you, instead of just listening to my crude summary, go and buy and play the game or watch someone else play it. That's it. It's over. It's done. Connor has deviated from his original programming, and he's free now. And he's free to live his life as a deviant. He's free to live his life as an android. He's free to do whatever his little heart desires. And that makes me so happy. I love Connor so much. His storyline, his character, his curiosity is really what gets me about him every single time. He's just so curious and so willing to learn about everything, and he honestly, in the pacifist route, is just trying his best. and it is the cutest. I love Hank and Connor's dynamic. They're like two of the greatest characters that I think a game has ever seen in a long time. And overall, I just adore Connor, and I adore this game, and I literally could go on for hours about Detroit Become Human. Ask literally any of my friends. And I love this game, and I'm so happy that I was able to make a video about it. And yeah, guys, if you made it this far, I just want to say a very special thank you to you for making it through this entire waffly video. If you're interested in supporting me, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe if you haven't already. It genuinely helps me out a lot. Also, my Patreon link is in the description if you want to support me monetarily. Please let me know what you thought of this video. I actually had a lot of fun writing the script for this and making this like kind of a video essay. So if you'd be interested in seeing more things like this, leave a comment below saying yes and what topic you'd want it on, because I'd love to cover things and like make kind of commentary video essays like this more. I had a lot of fun doing it. Anyway, my name is Connor, I'm the android sent by Cyberlife, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!